I have some silver that I'm holding in my hand as we speak. Yes, I do have some in the closet and under the bed. You know, I'm an old peasant. When things go bad, I want to own some silver and some gold in the closet. Now, the politicians and the academics say, nah, silver and gold are worthless. Don't bother. Well, all of us old peasants know that when things collapse, we better have some gold and silver under the bed. So I have some, and I will buy more sometime in the future. I have no idea when. I know about the movement. I hope they drive silver to 1,000, because I certainly own plenty of silver. I think it's probably unlikely. It's very difficult to do something like that with a huge commodity like silver. But I mean, it can be done. The Hunt brothers certainly drove the price of silver up an enormous amount. It can be done, and it has been done. If they do it, more power to them. If it gets too high, I'll have to sell. I don't want to sell my silver. I want it for my children. But I'm aware of it. Squeezing the price of silver, which is a huge international commodity, will be difficult, but more power to it. The Hunt brothers did it. Then again, I have absolutely no idea. I've never gone down to the vaults and done the audit. I mean, I hope somebody does, including I hope the ETFs and the exchanges do. Hooray if it's not actually there. That means the price will go higher and higher. As I say, I own silver and gold. I hope I have an opportunity to buy more before this is over, but there could well be physical shortages. I just don't know. I haven't done the audit. Please, somebody go down and do the audit, then we'll know. Of course, if they do the audit and they find out it's not there, it'll be too late because the prices will be going straight through the roof. Well, if and when there's a currency collapse and or a government collapse, throughout history, all of us peasants know gold and silver, we better have some gold and silver because that's the only thing that's going to save us. Maybe some wheat will save us. Maybe loaves of bread will save us, but gold and silver is more likely to be the same thing. Yes, when things collapse, people know. I mean, there's some kind of innate historical memory that people realize how to save themselves. If and when the U.S. dollar collapses, which is probably going to happen, maybe not in my lifetime, but probably in my daughter's lifetime, people will know they got to have some real assets in order to survive. I mean, Elijah, this is not the first rodeo I've seen. This has happened throughout history, and I presume it will continue to happen throughout history. We're already having inflation. I mean, if anybody who shops, you know there's inflation. The government says there's no inflation, but the government lies about it. All governments, and they have reason to lie. I mean, practical reasons. As you know, many government obligations are tied to the inflation rate. So if they say there's no inflation, they don't have to pay as much. So they all have reasons to lie, and they do. Anybody who shops knows there's inflation. Look at entertainment, anything, education, food, restaurants. You know that there's inflation out there, and it's going to get worse. Throughout history, when we've had huge amounts of money printing, I mean, it's very simple. It has always led to inflation. Maybe it won't this time for some reason, but it always has, and I suspect it will. We will probably eventually have a deflationary bust. There's no question. It's always worked that way. You have huge inflation, it eventually gets popped for whatever reason, and then there's a huge deflationary bust. I suspect that will happen again. Maybe somehow the Federal Washington can somehow get prices down and drive prices down into deflation. But the problem with that scenario is central banks and politicians don't like deflation because they lose their jobs. So they do everything they can to print, borrow, spend. Look at what's happening now. You think that the Federal Reserve is going to wake up one day and say, okay, we made a mistake. We're not going to print huge amounts of money now. We're not going to spend all this money. We're not going to borrow all this money. I cannot imagine a single politician in Washington saying that. Maybe one would, And maybe she would get elected because it's sound policy. But within 6 months, she would be assassinated or thrown out of office because people would say, no, this is too much pain. I don't want to suffer like this. And they would go back to inflation. Inflation's the easy way, and inflation has always been the way unless it gets out of control. Deflation? Well, normally when markets collapse, and if there's deflation, nearly everything goes down a lot. And normally when you have huge bear markets, everything goes down, including gold and silver. Go back in previous bear markets in the last century or two, whenever there's been a big bear market, gold and silver have gone down at least for a while. Eventually, when the money printing starts again, they always go up and go through the roof, and are great ways to protect yourself. But if there's gigantic deflation, most all assets will go down at least for a while. Then again, if you don't know what gold and silver are, if you're like Elijah's, the earlier questioner, you probably shouldn't own much at all because you don't even know what it is. And I would not encourage anyone to invest in something that I don't know what they're doing. In my view, though, everyone should own some gold and silver as an insurance policy, if nothing else, even if you know little about it. Most of us have health insurance. We don't know much about it, but we know we have it. We hope we never need it. Well, I consider gold and silver the same way. If you know a lot about gold and silver, and if you know what you're doing, there may come a time when you want all of your money in gold and silver. I do not have all of my money in gold and silver, but I could conceive of a time like that down the road if the whole thing collapses. I mean, if there's war and depression and everything else, then the only thing to own might be gold and silver.